Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live stream. I'm joined again by my dad. Evening, Gordon.
Good evening, everyone. Bit short notice, but here we are.
Yeah, just I thought that after it's been a bit of a weird week, hasn't it? Obviously, really disappointed at the weekend. Have you got over that yet?
Just about, yeah. I mean, I suppose I'm older than you, so I've had so many disappointments in the years, and it was hard though on Saturday night and Sunday, I must admit. And I think what made it worse was the fact that I knew that this game coming up on Saturday was so important, and we desperately needed to get a striker. And I think, you know, what's happened in the last 24 hours has been a bit of a boost. I'm not saying we'll win on Saturday, because I'm not going to predict us to win any other game in my life. But yeah, it was hurtful. I do think, I mean, I looked at some of the reactions and I watched a lot of other channels, and I think some people got it, you know, over the top, whereas I think others were a bit more balanced, actually. And I think when I look back at the game, I do think that we should have scored in the first half, and if we had a decent striker, we might have done. I don't think it was quite as bad a performance as some people were making it out to be first half. Second half, once they scored, we were terrible.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I didn't go to the game, which in hindsight turned out to be a good decision because it's a lot of travelling for me as well. So it would have been a miserable journey back. So I was literally. Obviously, it was at home in the afternoon, and I was planning to record a video, and I was thinking, right, well, you know, we'll get through this game. We'll be in the fourth round of the cup. We'll have signed Trippier. We'll have more signings to come this week. And I was sat there thinking, oh, so I've got a really positive video to make. And then, of course, we had to. I don't know what happened. I've not even chatted to you about this or even watched any of the highlights, but my score app said that we took the lead twice. Did we have 2 goals disallowed?
Did we have 2? We have certainly had 1 goal disallowed.
Yeah, well, my score app sort of said, "Oh, Newcastle 1-0, brilliant," and then like a minute later, it was 0-0, and had that happen twice. Then my phone buzzed again, and then of course Cambridge had scored, and I was just like, "Oh, I don't believe it! Like, I just don't believe it." And then I was hoping that would be cancelled, but of course that wasn't. So then I was just sat there for the last half hour thinking, what on earth am I going to do? So So basically, just to cut a long story short, I was got to full time. The full time whistle went, and I was like, right, well, what am I going to record a video about? So I just turned the camera on, and I never do this. I never ever do it. I never record in the immediate aftermath of a result, good or bad, because you can make knee jerk reactions. But having said that, we've now got to Wednesday, and I still stand by everything I said. I think I still feel a bit gutted about it. I mean, I'm not. I'm fine. I can look ahead to Watford now, but I was disappointed.
I know what you mean, and I mean, I haven't spoken to you since Friday night, actually, when we were all full of optimism, isn't it? But I think at half time, I was talking to the lads around us, and basically, I was saying, we are desperately needing a centre forward. We are needing somebody to lead the line, because that's what was missing on Saturday. We had. And so Maximum, I think, was supposed to be the player up there. But the trouble is, he started drifting deeper, and we were left with like a forwardless line. And to be fair, we did actually create a few chances, but what finishing is just so toothless. It's just, and we said it off game. Yeah, and I had a conversation with Alex, who was actually sat 2 rows in front of us this time, rather than in front us, him behind us. And we're just saying, we're knackered if they score. We're knackered. And I agree with it. If they get in front, we will lose, because we just, and that's exact. But the turning point of the game was just before they scored. I don't know if you remember, or you've probably seen it. I don't. They didn't show that match today, actually, but we had a free kick on the edge of the box, and it was lined up, and everybody was going, "Oh!"
I'll be honest, I didn't bother watching.
Well, the match they didn't show it anyway, and so it wouldn't have mattered. But Trippier had a free kick, and there was him and Richie were vying who was going to take him. We knew it was going to be Trippier, and he hit it. It hit the wall and bounced. But then it broke to Shaw, and he came forward, and there were players in space either side, but he lashed his shot, and it went 50 feet over the bar. And I was absolutely livid. I was up cursing him, because why did he do that? And then 2 minutes later, they broke and they scored. And it was like, oh, man. And it was such a messy goal. I mean, I didn't realise how messy it was until I saw it replayed, to be fair. And then, of course, it took an age for them to decide whether it was going to stand or not because of VAR. And apparently it stood because Shelby touched the ball inadvertently, really.
Right.
But it went, and that was it. And after that, we were like headless chickens. The heads went down. Joe Willett came on, and honestly, I think we've got his twin brother, because he's an imposter to the one we had last season.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. I really don't. Anyway, let's not talk about that for a while.
No, well, we have, but we've got to get our system, haven't we?
Getting yourself wound up.
Yeah,
that's how I felt on Saturday, but I don't feel like that now. I feel like it's another disappointment. But actually, someone pointed out to me that in the context of the season, being knocked out of the FA Cup isn't necessarily a bad thing in a sense. So, like, it doesn't matter. We haven't lost any points in the league, sort of thing. No. It's really embarrassing and disappointing. But ultimately, as far as the 21-22 season is concerned for Newcastle, it sort of doesn't matter. But if you know what I mean. Anyway, lots of people here. So evening Jabba Dabadoo, evening Morgul, evening Joe, and Blakey as well.
Hi everyone.
So good evening to everyone. George saying Cher had the ball in the net too, right? I don't know. Like I said, the only thing I had to go on was my
memory.
So I mean, you're probably just trying to block it out. So it's like it's like
Can I just say one final thing? People have said it was the most humiliating thing that we've ever had. Let me assure you, it is bloody well not the worst. You had to be alive in 1972 when Hereford, as a non-league team, beat us. That is the word. And it's repeated every year. We see the goals every year. That was the worst experience ever. That is the most humiliating.
It's just a bit of recency bias. It always happens.
It is.
It's like when people say, this is the worst Newcastle team I've ever seen. Well, it's not.
It's not.
No,
it's not.
There's a lot of recency bias with football, and people we all have short memories. We all do it. We all have short memories in a sense. Joel, I've had this message up earlier. It is what it is. What can you do?
Yeah, it's fair enough.
We move on, and we just move on to Saturday. And what I was going to say about Saturday was, look, it'll go one of two ways on Saturday. After the Man United game, everyone was like up here and thinking, right, we'll kick on now. We'll roll Cambridge over, then we'll get into this run of fixtures, and we'll be all right. And then we lose to Cambridge, and everyone's like, ugh, like how are we going to win any more football matches ever? And the fact is, it's in the middle. And I think like I said, one of two things will happen on Saturday. We will either be abject and rubbish, and we'll lose or draw maybe, but like in a really bad game, or the players will come out and they'll have a point to prove, and yeah, they'll just kind of they'll go for it and we'll win. We'll pull off a result when I don't know if no one's expecting it, but I mean the chat. I think a lot of people have written us off in the game against Watford. Jabba thank you so much for the super chat. That is really, really kind. So Jabba reckons we'll win 2-0 against Watford. So there you go. It's kind of what I'm talking about. Some people will think we're going to win, and other people, I'm sure there'll be people watching this right now who'll be thinking, no, we're not going to do anything. I don't know. What do you think about Saturday, Dad?
I am not predicting a win at any cost. I just will not predict us to win.
Yeah,
because I dread it when we're in the Super Six, and we are this week as well. So I will not be predicting a win. Having said that, if we can get Chris Wood in the lineup and we got a proper centre forward, I think we got a chance.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's true. But I agree with you, and I think I kind of mentioned this in my video after the Cambridge game, and I said, look, sometimes you just have to listen to the evidence in front of you, and the evidence of Newcastle United this season is they've won one match.
Yeah.
And like how can you possibly in good faith really predict a win? Because until they prove that they can win, I mean, yes, look, Jabba Dabba Doo, for example, I love it. I love your optimism. I hope we win 2-0. I've got no, but for me, the evidence, we couldn't even beat Cambridge, and it's like it's so frustrating. Results have to start. We have to start winning matches if we want to stay up. It's as simple as that. And until this squad and team start proving that they can win a few games, then I'll be like you. I think I won't be predicting any kind of win for Newcastle anytime soon.
On the flip side of that, the longer it goes on, even crap teams win football matches. Except Derby, I think, who when they were relegated, they didn't win many, did they?
They really did tank all season, didn't they?
But even poor sides, I think, as I said to you, my worry on Sunday night, I was thinking, are we actually going to be able to sign anybody that can come in and be a proper forward? Because that's what we desperate. I mean, we've talked about defenders, we've talked about midfield players, but without a proper defender, a proper forward, we're never going to win a game. And we felt that coming out of the ground. That's what people were saying, we lost to Cambridge, disappointing, and all the rest of it. But ultimately, we knew that if we don't have a forward against Watford, we've got no chance. I just don't think we can do it. So I think in that sense, if Wood is playing, then it's a plus. And the sounds of it, we're trying to sign others as well. So whether they'll be built or not, is this thing. But,
I mean, let's look at Chris Wood. So I had a quick look at his stats. We were linked with Chris Wood when we signed Callum Wilson, if you remember.
Yes, that's right.
I remember looking at him then and thinking, actually, he would be a decent signing, I think. And okay, we're the richest club in the world, but it literally means nothing right now, because for the next 6 months, the only thing that matters, or 5 months, the only thing that matters is that we somehow win enough matches to stay in the Premier League. Now, Chris Wood, in my opinion, in the Premier League for Burnley, but most of those games for Burnley are Premier League games, I think. The Leeds games, I assume, were championship games. So in the Championship, 1 goal every 2 games. In the Premier League, 1 goal every 3 games. For me, that is a massive improvement on nothing. Because we've got Callum Wilson's out. So for me, I think, look, it's not the most exciting signing in the world. When you're the richest club in the world, people expect you to be buying who knows who. And we have been linked with God knows how many amazing players. But the fact of the matter is, this transfer window, a lot of players won't want to come to us. It's a fact. They will wait until the summer. And if we're in the Premier League next season, then my goodness, will the squad change? It'll be an exodus, and the amount of quality players who come in will be massive. I'm sure of it. But for now, someone like Chris Wood, in my opinion, would do a decent job for us.
I agree. And I think, all these foreign players that we've been linked to, players from other leagues who've never played in the Premier League, it's a risk when you're in a relegation battle, really. And I know we're still linked with players from abroad, but I think being a forward is different to necessarily being a defender in this league. I think there's a bigger onus on you. And we were talking about this lad that they've been interested, this 19-year-olds. But 19-year-olds coming into this league with this battle, the thing with Wood is he's battle hardened, isn't he? Yeah, he'll give us physical presence. And on Saturday we were talking, who can we bring in off the bench to come into that team in the second half? Because obviously Gale was clearly unwell because he wasn't even a substitute.
Yeah.
And we had nobody. And it comes back to the way the club has been left in the lurch by the previous regime. We are so thin on players in key positions.
Yeah.
It's just criminal.
It's like, people talk about long COVID, don't they? And we've just got a long hangover from the Ashley era.
Yeah.
Because it is going to be with us for a while yet. Yeah. The fact that, there's 1 or 2 people commenting on my video at the weekend about, Eddie Howe not being good enough. And look, Eddie Howe was not made mistakes on at the weekend. He's not perfect. I'm not gonna do anything other than back him though at the moment, because I think at the moment he's brought in 1 player that he wants. This squad is what we've been left with, and look, he can only do so much. And I think hopefully we sign more players. Hopefully we get, we really do need 4 or 5 players this window, in my opinion, because we need it to freshen us up, if nothing else.
Yeah, we need to bring, and the one shining light from Saturday was Trippier. I mean, he looks a class player, and he will be, important for us in the coming weeks. I've absolutely no doubt. But we had Trippier on one flank, and on the other we still have Matt Ritchie. It's like. It's chalk and cheese, isn't it? I love Matt Ritchie, his attitude over the years, but he's past his sell-by date.
In any other club, he would have done it. He would have come in, done his job for a couple of years, like we bought him for, and he did it well. But 2-3 years ago, he should have gone.
Yeah,
that's the thing, that we should have moved on years ago. We haven't, obviously, and that's where we are. We know that's where we are as a club, but but we're still living with it, and it's not going to be able to change instantly.
The other thing about Chris Wood is, and it's something we haven't had, and not so much with Wilson, is he's a height, and he's a physical presence with a head in the penalty area, both attacking, but somebody made the point on Twitter last night, actually, also defensively. Do you remember when Alan Shearer was our best defender at corners?
Absolutely.
He would be.
You look at Chris Wood. I'm not comparing him to Shearer in any way, but you sort of mentioned a few minutes ago about how you're talking about who could we bring on and who's the physical threat. Our squad, and it has been like this for years. If you line our players up against any other Premier League side, they're always smaller. We're a small team, and we have been for quite a few years now. Yeah. And even our strikers have been small over the last few years. I guess we had Rondon was a big guy, wasn't he?
Rondon is similar to Wood in a way, in the physical stage.
But we only had him for a year, but like, our midfielders always seem to be small. And you look at the likes of Chelsea, Man City, all the top teams. And I know we're not competing with them or anything like that, but even some of the mid-table teams, they have massive players in midfield and they have a physical presence. And this is part of the reason why, in my opinion, we don't control games. Because
I'll tell you the one side that I've noticed who are very big to look at, and Andrew, if he was here, would back this up, would be West Ham. They are a physical unit of a team. I mean, they've got some big lads in that team, but they're good players.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a physical league.
They're doing really well. And part of it is they're great at set pieces because they're partly because they're physically intimidating to some of the opposition. And I'm quite impressed by what Moyes has done down there. But you're right. I mean, we are I looked at our team on Saturday, the one that started the game, and really, I mean, Fraser's a dwarf, really, isn't he? He's a little lad. And he's buzzing about, and it gets you so far. But we were up against the third division team, or whatever League One is, and they were quite physical in their approach. And I think one of the mistakes Eddie Howe made was we were just a little bit matching them up in physicality. We put loads of crosses in when we didn't have anybody on the end of them. We would have been better trying to do what we were actually doing against Man U, which was actually play around them and actually through them with pace. So no, I think I mean, a lot of people had their say last night, but actually the vast majority of people I've seen have been actually in favour of the signing.
I'm sure that's true.
And I think it's a must. You said the word, and I said it actually in a text. Or a tweet last night, and it's pragmatic. It's a pragmatic signing at a time when our aim is to stay up. And I was having a conversation with a lad last night on Twitter about when Keegan came as manager in '92, he was very pragmatic about the players he bought initially just to keep us up. And if you remember, it was a hell of a struggle, and we survived literally on the last day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then we built in the summer, and that's when it takes off. So I think we've just got to hope that we can get through this and stay up. That is the be-all and end-all now of our season, is stay in this league.
Yeah, I mean, and we've, like I said, we've got nothing else to focus on now anyway. But I mean, just going back to that, I mean, like I say, you sort of you made a good point in a text to me and Andrew the other night about how, it's good to see the owners and the manager or whatever actually looking to fill the right gaps. So, I mean, we've got gaps everywhere, to be fair, but they're not they're obviously looking at a lot of players, but they're not just. I don't think they're just looking at anyone. I think they're looking at, will they fit the system as well as let's get bodies in. It's like there's a bit more. It's not.
What I think about that, Ian? I think the top man was there on Saturday. And I think there was talk. They went into the dressing room afterwards, so it wasn't just Amanda Stavely and her husband. It was the other guy who came across. And I think then they had Eddie Howe on his own and talking. And we'll never know what was said that. But my guess is Eddie Howe has said to them, "We need a centre forward. Let's fix it." And they've activated this release clause for Chris Wood, and it wouldn't surprise me if it all, in time to come, that we'll look back on it and maybe it'll come out what was said in that discussion about, it's about remember when we lost to Orient pre-season, 10 years ago, and then there was a lot of players who were just saying, if you're in for this fight, stay, put your hand up. And I think there's a little bit about that, but I think the owners have taken control of the situation and actually, we need to fill this gap because we need to do something about this situation that we're in. And I think that's testament to them. And they're still trying to sign other players now. It's not the be all and end all. It's like we still got the 31st of January, haven't we, to sign? Yeah. So I think it's just good to. In a way, we should be grateful. Some people at the weekend were saying it's just like Mike Ashley Part 2, this. And I'm thinking, that's absolute rubbish. It's just total rubbish. Yeah. I mean, we're playing better football for a start since Eddie Howe took over. We're also got a management team in charge of this football club that care about the club, care about the supporters. And you can see it in their actions. you don't have to be anybody's but to see it, that you can just see that they're involved.
I'm just going to pick it up on something as you were talking there. Here's a question for you, and for anyone who's in the chat, let me know what you think of this. You were talking about, the dressing room, say when we got relegated, and it was like that Leyton Orient game, and it was infamous, isn't it? And afterwards, if you want to be in, stay, and if not, we'll help you move on, and blah blah blah. Do you think we have any real leaders in that squad at the moment? Who are the people knocking heads together and like leading that?
Like the Nolan or
the Barton and the Nolan. Do we have that now?
On the out, from looking in, you don't think we have, but I do think Trippier is probably a catalyst in what but he's just come to the club. I don't know, Ian. I really don't know. I'd like to say that Lascelles, because he has done that before a few years ago when he became captain. People have criticised him in his playing performances, but I do think as a captain, he had a presence a few years ago. But no, I don't know. Matt Ritchie, you would have said, was a voice, wasn't he? He would kick the corner flag into hell, wouldn't he? I mean, he was just.
Yeah, Neil sort of picked up on Ritchie. I I agree about Lascelles historically. I don't know. I don't know if he's in that position now. I think when we were coming out of the Championship, he was the leader. He really was, and he actually played like it. And is Lascelles really another one who's kind of outstayed his welcome at the club?
Well, he didn't play on Saturday, of course, so I don't know, But what I do think is interesting, and I'm just sitting here thinking about this, is at the end of the game, Trippier was gesturing to players to get back on the pitch, and that's divided opinion. Some people wanted them just to disappear, but there's equally as many people thought they should come and acknowledge the support because it was, a big crowd. But I do wonder what words were said in the dressing room after that, because I just think there might have been a few clashing of heads then. I think
you'd like to think.
Do you know what it is? I've just read Pat Nevin's autobiography, and it's really good and well worth a read if anybody want to read a decent, because it's not just the average footballer. Pat Nevin is an intelligent guy, but he was talking about the dressing rooms at Chelsea and Everton and about player strength. And we hear about them talking about these things on the radio, don't we? What happens in dressing rooms. And he does let into a few things about what was going on behind the scenes. And there are cliques. There are, like any workplace, you get these individuals. And it just makes you wonder, and that thing with the Orient game, that was an element of that, wasn't it? There was a clique of players who felt they were too good for this football club. And basically they were told, you either play or you get out. And that's what happened. But I do think there'll be a few words said in that dressing room on Saturday.
I was going to say there was that report, I think it was in the Telegraph, wasn't it, about the chairman going down to the dressing room. But they'd put in the headline, hadn't they, about he was flanked by bodyguards, and it was like, you just try to make him sound like he was going down there to cause trouble. But I mean, I'm sure he probably went down there and had his say. But the way it was reported was just outrageously bad. Like, it's just ridiculous. I hate stuff like that. But anyway, that's another thing. Geordie says, going back to, I mean, this is going back a while in the chat, but what happened after because we were talking about the word.
We did. Yeah, we were
in Newcastle's history, and obviously the Hereford game lives.
I have to tell you though, I mean, that Hereford game, I mean, for a start, it was a replay. We'd drawn with them at Newcastle. Yeah. It was 2-2. Malcolm McDonald was in his gobbiest prime when he first came to the club, and he was like, and we just thought we would win the first game easily. And even when we went down to Hereford, we thought we'd still win. We put out a good team and we'd win. And we went 1-0 up late in the game. And I was sat watching the television, and it was the Winter Olympics were on, and the BBC just had the scores running across the bottom. And then it came up, Hereford had equalised, and I just put my hand in my head. And how old was I? I was 15. And I thought, oh no. And then it came up about a quarter of an hour later, Hereford 2, Newcastle 1. I mean, this was the days before all this modern technology, obviously, and it was gut wrenching. But I had to go to school in Jarrah on the Monday morning, and half the school were Sunderland and half the school were Newcastle supporters, and it was absolutely dreadful. Sunderland fans had gone around the school in every classroom and put up Hereford 2, Newcastle 1. Honestly, it was awful. I have to tell you, the following Sats Monday, Newcastle fans went round putting Manchester United 0, Newcastle 2. So we got a bit back, but it was awful. Awful.
Yeah. Dino's got a good question, I think. This is interesting. Do you think maybe having Gerrard or Lampard would have improved our chances of attracting players we need? I was thinking this the other day, obviously, with Villa kind of getting Coutinho, and I don't know if they've actually signed anyone else, but they were linked with someone else who was awesome. I can't remember who it was now.
They've signed the Everton fullback, the Digney, hasn't he? He's gone to
right. And I did make me wonder that, but but then I thought, this is my opinion. I think there's maybe a little bit of truth in that, possibly, but I think ultimately it comes down to league position and opportunity, and I think players will look at, will this team be in the Premier League next season? Villa probably going to be, Newcastle won't be. So
and also remember, Aston Villa are sitting with 100 million quid that they got from Jack Grealish. You know, they're not in a poor position, Villa, are they? So they can afford to pay Coutinho's wages. They can afford to. It's slightly different to the vast majority of Premier League teams, to be honest, who are still shopping in what is a difficult market. I do think Coutinho is probably. Is it Coutinho? Have I got the right one there? The one they've just signed from. I don't doubt that Gerrard had an influence on him.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a bit like Keegan when he influenced players to come, wasn't it? I think there is definitely a thing.
It'll be interesting to see going forward. You know, like let's just assume everything works out and we stay in the Premier League. Eddie Howe does a good job, gets us, up the league, and next season and the season after. Would there come a point where, the pull of Eddie Howe wouldn't be enough, possibly? Do you know what I mean? Like, could that become a factor in the future? Maybe. I don't know.
I think it seems to be the way, doesn't it? Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, we look back at the Keegan era and look at the players he pulled in without, we weren't a top-rated side, were we? We were just...
Keegan had the reputation, though, didn't he?
He had the reputation. Eddie Howe, I've no doubt Eddie Howe is a good coach, and I hope he can attract people in. But we'll see.
I mean, the money will attract players, and success will bring players in. So we'll see. Let's just hope we can.
That's for the future. We just got to get through to the end of the season first.
It is for the future. Frank, just going back to something else. I don't really subscribe to the Premier League experience thing, and I kind of know what you mean, but I think what we were saying was, it was like, do you want to, even if they're a wonder kid, bringing a 19-year-old kid in who's never played in the Premier League is a risk, no matter how you dress it up. That is more risky, and it's hard because you're comparing someone like Chris Wood to someone who's potentially going to be like a really, really great player in the future. But I think at this point, for the next 5 months, we need some dependability and some certainty, and knowing that we can just plug these players in and get performances out of them.
Absolutely. I think that's that. I think that's the case. If you think, Cristiano Ronaldo, when he first arrived at Manchester United, was a one-trick pony.
I really mentioned him,
wasn't he? He was he just did these step overs. He was, and he was a good player, clearly, but
Ferguson
he wasn't
influenced the hell out of him. Like, Ferguson made him really what he became, in a sense. Like, if Ferguson hadn't have worked with him and changed the way he played, does he go on to have the career he's had? You've got to say probably not. If it does, it's because it's not just when you get a player that good. It's not just about being the ability, is it? It's about the mindset and everything. And obviously, Ronaldo's got that in spades and everything. But it does come down to if you don't rein that ability in, and you just think you can do all the tricks all the time.
The other thing I would say is the lad here that I can see is talking about defenders, and I think it's slightly different for defenders coming into the Premier League to forwards, because forwards are they always say playing up front and scoring goals is the hardest job in football. And sometimes you can put I mean, you know, in the early days of Chris Waddle in Newcastle, he was a skinny run on the wing and he hardly touched the ball, but he turned into a world-class footballer. I just think it's harder for a forwards. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I do think a battle-worn centre forward like Chris Wood is what we need at this moment in time.
Yeah, and it could. I mean, literally, like if we sign Chris Wood, which it looks like we're gonna, you can almost say it's like a 6-month signing in a sense. It's a lot of money to pay for someone who's probably become, if we stay up, would then become a bit part player. But on the plus side, if you go down, he's the kind of player who'd stick around and would be amazing in the Championship. So it's kind of a shrewd signing, actually.
It's not like Kevin Keegan's first signing was Brian Kilcline, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and he was a short-term fix, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was at the match, you know, on the weekend.
I know he was. Yeah, I saw the picture with
him and Barton. I thought I loved that. Yeah, brilliant. George says, gents, can get your thoughts on what happens to Lascelles if we sign a centre back that Lascelles goes on the bench, I think. Do you think Jamal would remain as captain? Could change of captain cause issues in the dressing room? My view on this to begin with is I think Lascelles is the captain for this season. Howe's not going to change that. If we buy players who are better than him, I don't think Howe would have any concerns about dropping him to the bench. That's how I feel. But I don't think you strip the club captaincy of someone mid-season.
No, I agree. And I think he might be a club captain, but he might not play.
Yeah, and that's a very realistic possibility, I think, going forward. And ultimately, Lascelles probably will be on his way out of the door, I think. It just depends who we buy and what happens at the end of the season, of course. Yeah. If we don't get enough players in this window, if we don't buy one or two defenders, then we will obviously have to play Lascelles at some point. And then at the end of the season, if we're relegated, then maybe Lascelles sticks around and plays in the Championship again. So that's not beyond the realms of possibility either.
Agree. I think it's just all depends where we are.
Liam says the majority of the squad know that this will be the last season at the club, though, and I think that's probably true, regardless of what happens at the end of the season, regardless of what division we end up playing in. So Mike's saying he's obviously very happy with the news about Chris Wood. Our talisman has arrived, and I think that is a good word to use because I think it's kind of. I mean, I love Wilson. Don't get me wrong. I hope Wilson comes back and plays and scores loads more goals because he's ace. But like when you hear the word talisman, I really do. I just picture someone like Shearer, like big, strong, physical, leads the line, holds the ball up, sets the kind of not the tempo, but like dictates how we play from the front. And I think
I would like to think, you know, what you said there about holding the ball up, that we haven't had a player, I mean, that does that, do we? I mean, we talked about Joe Linton, didn't we? But I think with Wood, I think there'll be an element of that in his game, that he will bring other players into the game from midfield. And we do have some quick players in the forward positions that may benefit from that physical presence, occupying defenders. I think at the moment we're too easy to push over.
Yeah, no, I agree. We are, and actually, it'd be really interesting to see how players like Almiron, St. Maximin, who else? I don't know. Fraser will play when they've got someone. Yeah, Murphy's a good one. When you've got someone holding the ball up, and then they can catch up to play, and I don't know, it might provide us with a new dimension that we just haven't had for a lot of time. Because Wilson sort of holds the ball up, but he doesn't really. He prefers to play off the shoulder. And
he's not a Shearer-esque type hold the ball up, is he? And
he can do it, but it's not his main. It's not his main attribute of his game.
To be fair, comparing anybody to Shearer is quite a task, isn't it?
But it just shows. I mean, it just shows you how we've really kind of struggled to replace Shearer for a long, long time. It just shows how good Shearer was, really. Dino says Sam Maximin hasn't been great for much of the season, lacking end product and vision most of the time. Is he a novelty we could do without right now?
The problem with Sir Maximin, I mean, he was awful on Saturday because he was just overplaying all the time. He had the chance to pass and he didn't. He had the chance to shoot and he didn't.
Yeah.
He was just frustrating as hell. And he was trying too hard, really. And I don't know if that's because Wilson wasn't there, because I think when Wilson is around, I think we did tend to play better, and Maxim tended to play better. He was asked to do a job where he did against Manchester United in the second half, where he was the sole forward, and he did it really well. But it was a different ball game against Cambridge because they sat deep. They had two banks of four, and it takes a different mentality. And unfortunately, I thought he was just like, he was very frustrating.
Yeah. But don't you think there's been too many performances like that?
I think, I haven't said that. He is the spark in that team when he plays well. He can run at people. He can drive at people. And I think with having a proper forward up there, perhaps that will help him if he plays. Because he had him out on the left was it against Brentford? And he played really well. He is frustrating, but I don't think we can leave him out. I think he can create something from nothing. I
think it goes back to what we were just talking about. It's different levels, obviously, but it's going back to that conversation we had about Ferguson and Ronaldo. I'm not saying St. Maximin's on Ronaldo's level by any means, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is you've got a talent there who doesn't know how to use it best. He doesn't know how to... He doesn't always make the right decision. And I think that obviously comes down to coaching and guidance. And, I'm sure it's something that Howe and his coaching staff will be working on, but he does. I said this even before the season started, and even last season, St. Maximin and Almiron for me both needed to start showing more in terms of goals and assists. And I mean,
if I was asked to keep one, which of those two, if I was asked to keep one of them, I would keep St. Maximin.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that. In fact, a couple of people commenting about Almiron. Frank saying, has Almiron got any goals or assists this season? I don't think he does, but I think he's also been limited in the amount of games he's played. He's not played that much. But I take your point, Frank, and I do agree. It's been my criticism of Almiron for a while that I love the guy, I love his enthusiasm. It's great, but ultimately, you need him to. He's an attacking player who again, he's another one who doesn't score. Or score many.
His best time was with that last few months when Rafa, when we had Rondon and Perez and Almiron, and they were forming a good partnership.
Yeah.
But since then, he's just. I just don't think he's. I've given him every chance, really, but he came on Saturday and didn't affect the game at all, really, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, Liam says, and I think this is probably quite a good shout. If Almiron can't. If nothing can come of it now with Almiron, he can see him going to La Liga in the summer. And I agree. I think that if Almiron leaves us, I think he'll go abroad, and I think La Liga's a good shout. I think he'll probably play. It'll probably suit him more because it's not as physical and fast. I mean, I don't know, but we'll see. Also, the St. Maximin gone downhill since Bruce left. Yeah, this is Liam. You've sort of said what I was going to say as well in your comment there. It was really, really interesting. It's almost like he must have had a good relationship with Bruce because he was the only player that came out publicly when Bruce left, and sort of he thanked him for his support and his guidance, didn't he? Sort of thing, rather than anything else. But he obviously had a good relationship with Bruce, and whether that's been a factor in kind of. I don't know.
The thing is, he's a professional footballer and he needs to get over it, doesn't he, really? And he's had games when he's played well. I mean, the second half against Manchester United, for a start, he was excellent. And, we deserve to win that game, in my opinion. So I think that there's far. I think he's just an inconsistent soul. I think, as I said to you, I think Wilson being out and him having to play this role on Saturday, he started off up front and then he drifted deeper and deeper to get the ball. And that's the problem. He's not disciplined enough. And he's not disciplined enough to know when to pass and when to shoot.
Yeah, and this is a huge issue, isn't it? So just before we just sort of like move on to a couple of other things, just wanted to do a very quick mention of this. I thought I'd do this now rather than right at the end. So if you haven't subscribed to my weekly newsletter, you can do that now. It's free. All you have to do, click in the link in the description below, put your email address in, and it will be delivered to you every Friday. So I just wanted to very quickly point that out. Now, what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about the weekend coming, so the Watford game coming up. So, look, we know that we're in a bad position. We know that Watford could go above Watford if things go our way. Now, I know you've kind of hinted earlier. Well, you didn't hint. You said you're not going to predict us to win, but if we do win, there's a chat. Depending on what happens with Burnley, of course, because they're at home to someone I can't remember who it is. Depending on their result, we could unbelievably at 5 o'clock on Saturday be out of the relegation zone. How does that make you feel?
Good, if it happens. Yeah, I'm not going to predict that we're going to win. I think it's a possibility, but yeah, I worry about Watford because they're terrible as well, aren't they? Really,
Yeah.
And they haven't had a great run, but they've got.
Well, look at the form guide. We're in better form than Watford.
Yes, I'm looking at that chart. It's like and they got turned over in the cup quite easily at Leicester last Saturday as well, didn't they? So, they're no great shakes. Look, if we're going to stay up, we've got to beat Watford.
I agree. We have to start winning games. Liam's just pointing out, apparently Watford have got Burnley and Norwich after us. So that is, that kind of adds more pressure onto the game for us. And not even considered that. But look, in my opinion, the time for moaning about the fixture list and having good draws and all that kind of stuff. Look, I'd rather draw a game than lose it. But ultimately, look, we have to start winning these games. Look at the next 7 Premier League matches. Watford at home, Leeds away, Everton at home, Villa at home, and then West Ham away, Brentford away, and Brighton at home. So I think we discussed this on the last live stream we did, but in my opinion, I think we have to be winning a minimum of 3 of those 7 games, and that is not going to be easy.
Agree. I think if we're going to stay up, we've got to win games, and 3 out of 7 would seem to be something that we must do.
For a team that's won 1 all season.
We've won 1 all season. We've lost 2. We played 2 cup ties and lost both of them. Okay, 1 on penalties.
Yeah.
And we haven't scored a goal in either of those cup ties. So one win in half. Even by our records, I can't remember a time when that happened. But yet, bizarrely, like you say, even despite that, we could win on Saturday and be out the bottom 3. It's crazy.
Yeah. We really just need a bit of luck. I really think we just even if we fluke it. Yeah, this comment by Steve's great, isn't it? So we talked about Almiron earlier, but Almiron has been like watching a headless chicken run around the farmyard. Initially amusing, pleasing, but ultimately pointless. Great, I love that. But just talking about going back to the game against Watford on Saturday. Let's discuss Dubravka because this is it's a little bit of an elephant in the room. This, I think. I feel like the clamour to have Dubravka back in was real. I was all for it, but he hasn't covered himself in glory since he's come back in.
No, he hasn't, and it is a bit of a worry. But I'd still start Dubravka.
No, yeah, I think
the keepers we've got in the squad at the minute, I still believe that there's an old adage, that a keeper's only as good as the defence in front of them. And that was something that was said of Gordon Banks in the World Cup years and beyond. You're only as good as those defenders, and I think there's a lot of uncertainty in that defence. And the chopping and changing of players in that defence must unnerve a goalkeeper as much as it helps. As it unnerves the defenders around because they don't know how they play. They don't, and I think there's a lot of uncertainty in our defence. And to be fair to Dubravka, I think he cocked up again on Saturday because looking at that save, I don't know why he went with it the way he did. But you know, we're conceding 1 goal in a game to Cambridge and not win it and still not win. You know, I mean, Tottenham went down to Morecambe, but they won 3-1. You know, Liverpool were down to Shrewsbury, but they won 4-1. So, yeah, one mistake and you're in trouble. But I think I just still stick with Dubravka.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
West Ham winning tonight. Is that
West Ham are winning 1-0 at half time, yeah. Which is good news for us because they're playing Norwich. James says the disrespect to Maximin is ridiculous. He's frustrating at times, and against Cambridge was poor, but you can't judge a player on one game. He was great against Man United and has been great this season mainly. Now, James, I don't feel like we were disrespecting Sam Maximin at all. And I think my dad pointed out that Maximin has had some amazing games this season. The problem is it's very inconsistent, and he is frustrating at times. But I think it's like too many times he's frustrating at the moment. And there is a player in there, and I agree. You know, if you're going to keep Almiron or Sam Maximin, you keep Sam Maximin every day of the week because he's a better player.
Do you know one thing about Sam Maximin that I think we need to stop him doing, and I wish How would stop him doing this, is when he gets tackled legitimately and he flings himself on the pitch and then he throws his arms to the heavens and waits a few seconds to see if the referee is going to give him a decision. It drives the hell. I mean, just accept you lost the ball. But he did. I think he's got such a talent, and it is frustrating. And I think he has had great games, but it's just knowing when to pass and knowing when to shoot. And sometimes he just needs to learn that, really.
I think the frustration is we all know how good he is on his day, and we just need him to be like that more consistently. And I think if he is, he's great. Joel sort of sums it up nicely, actually. He's a talent, obviously, but he's quick to get a sulk on. And he does kind of he loves a little bit of a limp around, doesn't he? He likes if he's been. To be fair, he does take some tackles.
He gets kicked to high heaven by. He has 3 defenders, 3 players around him times, and he invariably gets stopped with a kick. You know, because they can't stop him when he's in full flight.
No, and it is irritating.
We need to.
Yes. Morgul saying for Sam Maximin, we need the like a sign for like Forrest Gump. That's say when they all tell him to stop running. Instead, get a pass. He has got a bit better at passing, releasing the ball a bit earlier. To be fair, I think he's improved that slightly. But there are still times that when he runs into an alley and then he beats the man, and then he sort of turns back and then has to beat another man. It's like just sort of, I don't know, just release it a bit earlier. I don't know. Come 65, 70 minutes, he's had enough. One trick pony.
Except against Man United when he was actually excellent in that second half.
And this is it. Get taught as a kid, play to the whistle. Exactly. Right, now, you'll be glad to know, Dad, that instead of
what are you going to say?
Instead of guess who it is, I've got a different version of guess who it is. So I've got who is missing from this lineup, because I was thinking it was the FA Cup this week. We got knocked out. We know that. Okay. But the last time we played in an FA Cup final was in 1999 against Manchester United, who obviously ended up winning the treble that season. Now, here's the challenge, right? I've taken the starting 11 from that match, and I've removed 3 of the players.
Oh, God.
And I want you to try and guess who the 3 players are that are missing from the 1999 FA Cup final lineup.
God.
I've made it a bit easier because I've put the positions on.
Yeah, I can see. I'm just trying to think who
So we've got a right back, we've got a central midfielder, and we've got a striker.
Well, Robert Lee must have been in midfield, was he?
Yeah, Robert Lee was the missing midfielder. Well done. That was the easy one.
Yeah. Who was playing alongside Shearer? Wasn't Amiobi, was it?
No, Liam was only 1 when that cup final was played.
Oh, man, shut up.
Yeah, not Hughie Gallagher.
It
was a long
who
time
was the
ago.
right back? Who was right back in that team? Was it Barton?
Was not Barton. He
Um,
was still at the club, obviously, then. But
yeah, he was. I know.
He didn't play. He didn't play then. He didn't play in that game.
Oh, 1999. It wasn't Ferguson, was it? No, because he had no.
Blakey said Big Dung. It wasn't Ferguson either. No.
No.
It was the right time for Ferguson though, because of course it was the Hullett era, wasn't it? And
I'm trying to think who would have been. And who was right back?
Ferguson come the season after that? Did he come in the summer, Ferguson?
I think he came the season after, yeah.
Because he got dropped by Hullett.
Yeah, but Hullett played in that final. Hullett was the manager in that final, though, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Was it? It wasn't Elliott, the right back, was it? No.
It wasn't Elliott. Morgles just said that. Wasn't Elliott, no.
By
the way, can I just point out how much Didier Dermy was a great player? Like,
he was brilliant.
He's massively underrated in terms of when fans talk about old players. But I used to love Didier Dermy.
Remember that? My abiding memory of Didier Dermy was when he broke down that wing and then he crossed it, and Shearer came in at the far post at Blackburn and slammed it into the net.
Yeah,
that was on the way to that final, I think.
It was in the 5th round or something.
In the fifth round, it was a replay.
That was one of the best away trips.
And we were lower down, weren't we? Because we were actually to the right of the goal. Yeah. To the right.
Alan and Chrissy getting Rob Lee. Yeah, Rob Lee was the centre.
Who played up front? Was it that Anderson? No.
No. I'll give you one more guess.
I just can't remember, Ian.
We've got Neil's got it right. Neil's got the striker right. Ketspire,
really?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, mad. I would never have guessed that, but obviously I looked it up.
So who was right back then?
So not Warren Barton. I'll give you a clue on the right back. Not Pistone. Jonathan saying
he was right back anyway. Pistone, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He once this player once scored a very important goal for us. In the Champions League.
In the Champions League? Gary Speed?
No,
he didn't come. He was midfielder anyway. He scored against. No, he scored against Juventus.
Yeah,
am I right?
Yeah.
The thug.
Thug. He wasn't. The thug.
What was his name, man? He scored against
Juventus.
Yeah. Oh man.
He's called.
I know who you mean. I know exactly who you mean when you tell it. No.
Yeah. You nearly said it.
Yeah, Griffin.
Well done, Joel. Lots of people saying it now. Sorry, I've just realised you're right. Someone pointed out I've got Solano on both wings. So let me.
Who's
the other missing player? Let's have a look. See who I missed out because I can't remember. It should have been Rob Lee. Sorry, Rob Lee did play. So we actually had Lee, Herman, and Speed.
Speed, I was going to say Speed should have been in that team. Yeah.
Sorry. So Speed, yes. Right. I made a mistake.
So Andy Griffin played in right back in that.
There's the. Let me just put the answers up there. So sorry about that. So one of those Solano should be Speed. Should be Robert. Sorry about that. God, man, I always make a mistake. Never mind. Well done, everybody. Bit of a different way to do it. So some good guesses.
I don't remember though. I mean, I would never have thought Andy Griffin played in a cup final.
Very. And to be honest, I wouldn't have put Griffin in the squad at that point.
I was thinking about Aaron Hughes. That was the other one that came to mind.
Hughes would have been a good shout, but he must have been injured or on the bench or something. Keith. If only Solano had a twin brother. Imagine that if we had two Solano, a left-footed Nobby and a right-footed Nobby would have been a dream, wouldn't it?
I have to tell you though, that time that Ian didn't think much of Solano.
I did. I'll admit that openly. This is why I don't judge players too quickly these days, because when Solano first arrived at Newcastle, I thought he was rubbish, and obviously was very, very wrong in the long run. I still maintain though that he didn't start that well.
No,
It took him a while.
He was playing in a relatively poor Newcastle team, wasn't he?
But when he did, he was fantastic. There's no doubt about it. Love the guy. Love him. Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dad. Hopefully, my brother Andrew will be with us the next time we do one of these.
Yeah, that'll be good, wouldn't it? He was obviously busy tonight, which quite often the case. So it's a bit of a shame, but hopefully we'll all get together.
Yeah. And just a last shout out to my newsletter. New one's coming out on Friday. So it goes into your email every week, every Friday. So yeah, just sign up. It's just in the description below. Really easy to do. It's completely free. And just trying to grow it a little bit. So that's all good. Have a good week, everyone. Let's see who we sign between now and, I don't know, the weekend, but obviously after that as well. Can't wait. There is still exciting stuff to happen, even after a disappointing cup defeat.
Yeah, always.
We're done. Right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Catch you soon.